So a lot has changed since the last time we sat down with Andrew Tate. Last time we sat down with him, you were the most Googled man on earth. Today, effective last 2 days, you are now the most Googled woman on earth.
Correct.
According to your Twitter profile.
Correct.
And we wanted to make sure after the BBC interview, you made certain requests.
Yeah.
You said you want, moving forward, there to be a $50,000 fee when people sit down to do an interview. So we wanted to make sure the ESG score for this interview would be very high. We got you a $50,000 Target gift card.
I appreciate it very much.
People in America will appreciate
I need
that.
a whole new wardrobe.
And then
Yes.
you also said cookies. So Adam got you some
Box of
Tate
chocolate.
cookies.
Amazing.
To make sure we match that. And then we
One
did,
for your brother as well, I
we
believe.
did bring a Bud Light,
Yes.
but unfortunately, Vinny finished it on the way here. Vinny, you know, we
I'm already a girl. I don't need Bud Light.
yeah, so we respect that. So, but anyways, look, a lot's obviously changed from last time to this time. Last time we sat down was around 9 months ago.
Yeah.
You had, at the time, been deplatformed from every social media platform. We came out here, we sat down, we spoke. The Matrix was attacking you. You were saying, Matrix attacking me, Matrix attacking me.
Yep.
From then on, Musk buys Twitter in October.
Yep.
He then reinstates you.
Correct.
In one day, I believe you get 1 million followers on Twitter. You're upwards of 7 million today.
Yep.
Every other account's taken down. I think even Tristan was taken down off of Instagram.
Yep.
And then, you know, the arrest comes, the lover boy, all these articles.
Yep.
And Vice releases the hit piece on you guys. You know, they're saying what they're saying, and I'm sure we're going to get some comments on that.
Yep.
The initial 30-day lockup was extended twice, 92 days in the dungeon.
Yep.
We had a chance to speak with one of your lawyers, Tina Glandian, on February 24th. It was a great conversation we had with her. Then eventually you're released, you and your brother come out, and you specifically make it clear that you did 7,417 push-ups.
Correct.
Very impressive. You received letters from thousands of fans. You read the Quran on a daily basis.
Yep.
At no point was any charges, anything official charge. It was all allegedly.
Yep.
And while you were away, a new star was born, Dylan Mulvaney, which I'm sure you're familiar with. From there on, a lot of comments were made. Comments of people that supported you, comments of people that didn't support you.
Yep.
Logan Paul said by 2023, he will not have a sliver of relevance, is what he said. KSI said Andrew Tate snitched on himself after getting racial by Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
Destiny said Andrew Tate has been arrested for rape charges in a country he specifically lives in to avoid rape charges because he was beefing with a autistic child on the internet. I think he's referencing the great Greta.
Yep.
Matt Bernstein advocated to get you kicked off of Instagram.
Sure.
And he's part of the Blue Pill community, a big famous makeup artist.
Yep.
Ethan Klein said, and that's why I call him Andrew, the human trafficker. He sent me a cease and desist threatening to sue me for defamation for saying he's a human trafficker.
Yeah.
What else am I supposed to call someone that buys and sells human beings after their will? Tate, the human trafficker. NBC in January 2023 said Andrew Tate said he broke a woman's jaw and that his business was a scam ahead of Romanian charges.
Yeah.
Rolling Stone said, meet Andrew Tate, ex-kickboxer, red-pilling the angry young men of America. These are people that didn't support you. Now, these are the people that supported you. Tucker Carlson, he comes out and he says on Full Send podcast, first of all, he's really smart. Yeah. The spirit that animates Andrew Tate is very clear and very obvious, and it's not a malicious spirit at all. Andrew Tate's core message is respect for yourself, act like you're worth something,
Yep.
achieve something, do something, get the fuck off the couch, put down the porn, go do something with your life. That's the greatest message that anyone could give. It tells you everything about the people in charge who say that's threatening. What is that threatening? The same people who live on the pedo island with Epstein and the same people that were friends with Harvey Weinstein were claiming to protect women by rebuking Tate.
Yep.
That's Tucker Carlson.
Yep.
Piers Morgan, who originally, when he went on, it was very combative.
Correct.
It was a very good interview, entertaining, but it was also interesting to see him trying to push you. And then he flips and he says, this is getting ridiculous. Romanian authorities must either charge him
Yep.
and his brother if they have actual evidence of crimes or release them. Musk obviously supported by restoring your account like this. Jake Shields said people are freaking out about young boys looking up to Andrew Tate, but totally fine with young girls looking up to Cardi B and the Kardashians. And obviously, Aiden Ross, Red Pill community, Joe Rogan. I can go on and on and on about a lot of things that's being said. We watched the BBC interview, and we'll talk about BBC here in a minute because I have some questions on that as well. But the first thing I want to ask you is, 9 months, where we were at then, September, to where we are today, a lot's changed. How do you feel with everything that's going on? And tell us a little bit about your current state today.
Yeah, there's a very strange sense of terror that comes from knowing exactly what's going to happen to you. There's a strange sense of calm that comes from it also, but in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, sometimes you feel happy knowing what they're trying to do to you, and sometimes you feel terrified knowing what they're trying to do to you. I think I'm very happy. Every single podcast I did previous to this, I hammered the point home, and I made it very clear that they had the intention of trying to put me in jail. I said, there's 3 lives. They try and cancel you and slander you and destroy your name. They don't just want you to disappear from the internet. They want you to disappear from the internet in a cloud of shame. They have to shame you, which is why they chose the crimes they did for me, and it's why they usually choose the crimes they choose, because it's heinous. They want to shame you, and they want you to disappear with your head facing the ground and never pop up again. Obviously, they attempted to cancel me, and I became more famous than ever before. I even said to you on your podcast, and I said on other podcasts, I said, I think they made a mistake. I think when you have power and you overuse it, what happens is a rebellion. That's how a revolution starts. When you have power, you have to be very, very careful with how you use that power. The second you overuse it, there's a revolution, and we're in Romania, so they know all about that. That's exactly what happens. And I said at the time, I think I was a mistake. I think they made a big mistake canceling me the way they did. And then the second time, the second life, which I described as they try and put you in jail for no reason. Here we are in the current scenario. I knew it was going to happen. And the third one is they put a bullet in your head. So we're going to have to see how the second life plays out. And yeah, I mean, when this is all over and I win the court case and I get the not guilty, I won't be smiling. I'll be walking out the courtroom with my head on a swivel. That's the kind of life I'm living now. I'm going to be thinking, oh, okay, so their second attempt failed. Now what? Like, do I want to fly private anymore? Do I want to go that place anymore? You start to think about these things. Like, do I want to do these things? A lot of billionaires dying in plane crashes. It's strange. So it's scary, regardless of how it plays out. And I guess you just have to go with the punches and see where it lands. And God has a plan for me and for all of us, and we're just going to see how it ends up.
Full disclosure, you don't have any suicidal thoughts.
I want to make it very clear, and I make it clear on absolutely every single podcast, I would never kill myself. I don't care what they say. I don't care what video they show you. Never under any circumstance would I kill myself. It's haram. Never. I don't care if they put me back in the dungeon, solitary confinement by myself for the rest of my human years. I would never kill myself. Ever. Ever. So if that ever happens, God forbid, do not believe whatever garbage they tell you. The chance of me killing myself is precisely 0.
And you had this complete level of certainty that this is exactly how it would play out. You've said this on umpteen podcasts that this is their agenda.
They have to damage my influence. They have to damage my influence. They can't sit there and let me be influential because I'm saying things that they don't like me saying. And there are people sitting around going, he's saying things counter to our message and counter to our narrative. Get rid of him. And they have a pretty standardized playbook. And this is probably one of the first times in history where their playbook just isn't working. Cancel him. Well, he's still around. Oh, well, lie about him in the news. Just say he touches chicks. Well, no one believes it. Oh, all the comments are on his side. Everyone's calling us liars. Okay, then do it again. Then do it again. Make up a new girl. Then do it again. Find someone else. Yeah. And they keep attacking me with the same weapons, but the bullets are bouncing off. And that doesn't give me a sense of calm. That doesn't make me think, ha, 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 I'm invincible. It makes me think, uh-oh. It makes me think, uh-oh, because human life is cheap at the top. It's very cheap.
Does it make you want to sit on the sidelines and be quiet and just kind of live a life with your family, your kids? Does it make you want to do that? Maybe all these attention is actually not a good thing.
It's interesting because sometimes I analyze myself and think, why don't I just do that? Why don't I just disappear? You know, I don't need money. I don't need fame. Why don't I just disappear? And then you have to, I was saying this to my brother, and he was like, well, Genghis Khan didn't need Vienna. Some people are just wired that way. Like, Vienna's a long way from Kathmandu. Sometimes that's just the way it is, or Ulaanbaatar, I apologize, the capital of Mongolia. That's just the way some people are. If I see injustice, and if I see things which I believe to be false, I feel like I am obligated to say the truth. I can't explain why, even if at my own detriment. What am I doing this for? Like, it's to the detriment of my life. And I've had these conversations at length with the people close to me, and we're all saying the same thing. It's always been the same way. Humanity's always been the same way. There's been a select, small, few good men up against evil, and evil always outnumbers you. Evil always has more money than you. They always have more power and more influence than you. If you play any video game, when you get to the end boss, he always has more life than you. He always has more hit points, but you're the good guy. And it's kind of like, it's never been any different. At any point in human history, there's been the good guys up against the forces of evil, whatever they were of the time. And you've always been outnumbered, and you've always been supposed to lose.
So you consider yourself the good guy in this situation?
I think that truth is instilled by God in all of us, and I think if you tell the truth, you're a good person.
So who do you think is the bad guy? You know, everyone uses they, them, they're after me. Who's they? Who's the bad guy?
Well, instead of saying who, I will say, what I will start by saying is what they do. And what they do is they control information. And we now live in an information society, and by controlling information, they control how people think and act and react to things. That's all they have to do. They have to control information, and they have to be very selective with what they allow you to talk about and what they allow you to discuss and what they don't. And once they can do that, they can keep you bickering about garbage, and they can control the sensitive information, and then they run the world. So having all the information controlled and having this hard barrier on what can be discussed, that's how they can purport absolute fallacies. I think now it's been a couple years, we can probably talk about it. They psyoped the world into believing they should be afraid of the common cold. They psyoped the world into this. And if you think about how difficult that would be to do, how difficult would it be to psyop the entire population of Earth? Well, what you do is you just lie on repeat, and you don't allow anyone to say anything counter to it without hurting them the same way I've been hurt. And you just psyop them. It's actually amazing because now I use that exact same psyop on people. I love it. I love it. So when I sit with someone who's not matrix minded, when I sit with someone who is matrix minded, like when the BBC walked in here, I'm like, do you all have your vaccinations? Social distancing.
Did you actually?
100%. Social distancing, please. And they look at me like I'm crazy. Well, how am I crazy? 2 years ago, you were telling me to do this. Now when I repeat your own worldview to you, I'm crazy. Well, if I'm crazy, guess what? You're a fucking liar because you lied the whole time. So either you're a liar or I'm not. You know, how can I be nuts? Put your fucking mask on. If I ever talk to any of these clowns again, they're going to be fully masked up. And I refuse. I don't care if you've had 2 booster jabs. No, I want all 6. All 6 injections. I want paperwork. Or get fucked.
Or you're not coming in the house.
Get fucked. I'm scared of COVID. It's dangerous. I believe the mainstream media. I'm scared.
This word you keep using, PSYOP, I've never heard this word. It's short for psychological operations?
Correct.
Break that down. What exactly is a PSYOP?
Yeah, a PSYOP is the matrix as a whole. Psychological operations are constant. They constantly decide how they want you to think and what they can do to make you believe that, right? And there's a whole bunch of them they do. But it starts with tolerance. That's what I don't like about this whole guise of tolerance. It's not that I'm an intolerant person. It's not that I'm a bad person. It's not that I want to hurt other people. But when they keep pushing tolerance, what they're trying to say is have no standards or barriers or parameters for anything. That's what they want. You have to be tolerant. Tolerant of what? Tolerant of having your shop set on fire, tolerant of your kids being taught things you don't want, tolerant of crime, tolerant of your house being broken into. Like, tolerant of what? You're not allowed any hard barrier or any hard parameters as a man anymore. That's why they push tolerance. That's the beginning of it. That's the first stage. Once you accept absolute tolerance, well then it's the end, isn't it? I'm tolerant of everything. I'll eat the bugs. Sure.
You'll tolerate everything.
I'll tolerate everything. I'm tolerant. Sure. So when I say things like I'm intolerant of certain things and people think that's bad, no, you need to have standards and parameters. And that's one of the reasons they also attack me. I say that men should be allowed to have standards and parameters in a relationship and in their lives. We should be allowed to decide who we want to marry, and we should have standards for her. They have standards for us. We should allow ourselves to have standards for her. We should have standards in what we'll accept from a government and standards in what we'll accept from a police force. We should have standards as men. But they're trying to erode all of that, because once that's gone, then your brain is completely empty. And then once your brain's empty, they can just plug in the slave program, and then it's over, right? You're a tolerant person. You're a tolerant person. Good. You're a good slave. Slaves are exceptionally tolerant.
So the shirt you wear is what? Escape the slave mind?
Resist the slave mind.
Resist the slave mind. What does that mean exactly?
It's a better word, resist.
Resist.
Right? But I want to do this before we get into, because we got 5 hours, guys. We got plenty of time to get into a lot of different topics. So one, I do want to talk about BBC.
Yeah.
The handling of the interview, I want to get your thoughts on it. I know there's been reactions, but I want to go a little bit deeper into it, because I want to compare how your start with the interview with BBC started versus Philip Schofield versus Musk. I got all the first questions. We'll cover that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about media. I want to talk about your evolution of your faith, atheist, Christian, Muslim, and then some of the things that's going on with politics right now. You know, maybe a little bit of Romania, you know, Trump. We'll cover what you're talking about with different things. It's funny you're saying monopoly on power. If you abuse it, now YouTube's turning around and saying, hey, you can talk about the election. We're no longer going to give the strike. So that doesn't work forever. First thing I want to talk about, I think the audience would like to know, for you and Tristan, 92 days in the dungeon, you know, you're in jail, your experience in there, we keep hearing about it, we read about it, but what was it like for you guys being in there?
So I'll start by saying, and I have to make this clear, that the staff in the jail were exceptionally nice to me. They were very apologetic. The vibe was apologetic. Nobody was really treating me like a criminal. There were a few guys who were icy cold, I guess you could call them. They like to think of themselves as professional, but they were just inhuman. But over time, they warmed up, and I was exceptionally nice also to all the staff. Jail was terrible. I'm going to start by saying jail was terrible, and I was miserable inside of the jail cell. It's a good thing depression isn't real, because I would have been depressed. But I think in life that you get what you give, and I wanted to feel happier, so I tried my very best to make people happy. So when the old lady would bring me my food, I would sit and say, oh, this is the best food I've ever had. I've never had food this good. Did you cook this? I thought yesterday was the best, but you managed to surpass it again. How'd you do it? What's the magic ingredient? And I ended up making friends with them. Like I had grandmas in there, the old ladies cooking the food. And by trying to make people happy and smile all the time, I started to feel a lot happier. But it's kind of scary. And I think the scariest thing about jail was the uncertainty of it all. If they would have said to me, you're in jail for 92 days, or even 5 years, you got 5 years, cool, I do my time. But when you're nabbed and thrown in a cell without charge, you're like, well, how long, is this my life? Is this it now? Is this the end of the story? I'm just in this cell. And I was picked up on 29th of December. I went through this quick court case. Like I said, I'm inside of the jurisdiction of Romania, so I have to be very careful with what I say because the case is ongoing and we're in Romania and I can't leave Romania. But obviously Romanian court is in Romanian by law. So you're marched into this room, everyone speaks a language you don't understand for 15 minutes, and then you're marched off to jail. You're like, what even happened? What even happened to me? And they said, oh, here's the paper that explains it. I was like, that's in Romanian. And they said, oh, don't worry, you'll get a translation to English by law. I was like, okay, that's fine. But because I was picked up on the 29th of December and there was New Year's Eve and holidays, it was 2 weeks before I even knew why I was in jail. 2 solid weeks I'm in jail. No one told me in English why I'm in jail. I had no idea what the charge.
Can they do that?
By law, you get it on the piece of paper in English, but it's translation, it's holiday, we need to find a translator, there's a delay.
And you speak zero Romanian.
Zero. So they said, oh yeah, human trafficking. I'm like, what do you mean human trafficking? Who? When? What? What is this? Took 2 weeks before I finally got a piece of paper, and then I realized what garbage it truly was. I mean, I knew it was garbage, but I was like, this is complete garbage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have endless stories from jail. It was certainly... I don't think jail teaches you much new. What it does is confirm everything you already know. It confirms everything you know about the reality of the outside world, that you need to be physically strong so that you're not attacked by others, and mentally strong so you're not attacked by yourself. You learn who's on your side and who isn't. You learn who's a coward and who's not. You learn who's an opportunist and who isn't. Your circle, you certainly learn a lot about the people around you when you go to a jail cell, that's for sure. But I remember it was New Year's Eve. When I was first picked up on the 29th of December, I was very sure I'd be out in 24 hours. I was like, there's no way they're going to keep me. For what? Like, this doesn't make sense. So finally New Year's Eve rolls around, and I'm sitting in the jail cell by myself. And in Romanian jail, you don't leave the room. It's not like an American jail where there's a yard or anything. You're stuck in the room. It's 3x4, and that's your existence. You just stay in the room.
Are you by yourself?
24
or
hours
Tristan?
a day. At the beginning, I was by myself. And you're stuck in this room, and I'm sitting there. It's New Year's Eve, and there's a very faint speaker, maybe way down the hallway. The guards must have been having a little party for New Year's Eve. And there's this awful song. It's called the Ketchup song. I don't know if you know what it is. I don't want to sing it, but it goes, hey, aha, hey,
of course.
That super annoying song. And I'm sitting there, and I know it's New Year's Eve because the fireworks start going off. And I'm looking out my tiny window, and I can just hear in the very long distance from the end of the hallway, hey, aha, hey. And I'm sitting there looking out the window like, this can't be it. This can't be the end of my life. Even the cockroaches all over the walls didn't celebrate. There was maybe 15 cockroaches on the walls, right? And when it struck 12 and the fireworks went off, I kind of like, well, who's my friends in here? The cockroaches. I looked at them, even they didn't move. I was like, well, that's New Year's. It's funny because before that, a couple days before that, me and Tristan were discussing, do we want to do New Year's in Dubai? Do we want to go Courchevel? Shall we go Miami? We're all arguing, oh, that will be boring. That's too far. We had all these grandeur plans. Oh, finally we decided to go to Dubai. We were in Czech Republic at the time, and we decided to go to Dubai, and I said, let's stop in Romania so I can repack a suitcase. So
That's it. That's the only reason.
That's the only reason. So jet left Prague, landed in Romania. My jet was still on the runway. Came here overnight to pack a suitcase, spent the night, spoke to Greta with the pizza box, And it's 5 a.m. they got me before I flew back to Dubai. So that was my
The infamous Greta pizza box situation.
Greta pizza box.
How much you think there's anything linked to Greta? Is there anything, because the timing of it?
Yeah, I don't think she specifically said that.
Of course.
But there are certainly people within the Matrix machine that you can't attack without catching flack for. There's certainly protected people. It's absolutely and utterly a club, and you're either in the club or you're outside of the club. She's certainly in the club, right? So if you say certain things about certain people, or you get a beef with X amount of people, or you discredit a certain person, they're going to try very hard to teach you a lesson for doing that. And you can see very clearly who's in the club and who isn't by the Philip Schofield situation. This is a man who has groomed boys and had sex with them, but he's in the club. All of the media headlines after 2 days are, let's have compassion, feel sorry for him, his mother's upset. They've attacked me for 14 months, day after day after day, and they relentlessly attack me. Nobody talks about my mental health. Nobody gives a shit how I feel. I didn't do any of the things he did. He's actually done things. I haven't done anything. But when you're in the club, you're protected by the media. When you're not in the club, you're attacked by the media. And that's how it simply works. You're either on our side or you're not. But to join their side, you have to sell your soul. Your sanity has a price. Your sanity is for sale. You have to sell it. You have to come along with your sanity, take out your mind and say, here you go. Take my sanity. I'll take 35 million. Yes, that is a woman. Yes, protect me. It's insane. And the reason these people join these clubs is because they know they're doing bad things and they feel that they need protection. The reason I stand up and argue against all this shit is because I know I don't have skeletons in my closet. You think I'd be on the internet talking like I talk and fighting the Matrix if I had skeletons in my closet, if I was actually a bad person? I've been investigated as deeply as a person can be investigated by multiple federal agencies for 14 months. I was locked in a jail cell and 2,000 people I know was called. My barber, my old housekeeper from when I lived in England 9 years ago, my gardener I used to have in another country I lived in. Everybody was called. And people were offered bribes effectively. The media are calling girls saying, if you have a bad story to tell about Andrew, we can pay you $30,000 if you have a bad story. That's a bribe. That's a bribe. And they still couldn't find anyone. Still, I've been investigated to a deeper level than 99.9% of people you'll cross on the street. And they're saying I'm guilty and I'm a bad person? You go get 20 men off the street and put them through what I've been through. You'll find more crimes than you've ever found with me. Absolute clown world. It's insane. And if I was part of the club, none of this would be happening. The media would be on my side. They wouldn't be hitting me this hard. They wouldn't be lying about me. All I had to do was sell my soul and sell my sanity, and I refused. And they're trying to punish me for it. That's what's happening.
It's fun. Do you think the idea of trying to either silence you or make you irrelevant is working? Meaning, do you think you're more relevant today than you were on September 1st? Is that strategy they're implementing working?
No, they're failing. And the reason they're failing is because God's put me in a position where I have to lead from the front. I think that in the days of old, when politics used to mean something, I believe in politics as long as the leader of the country charges on his horse at the enemy at the front. Then you're allowed to be king. Then I'll listen to your laws. That's politics. When you send other people's kids to die in a war and you sit on your ass, that's not politics to me. But now I'm in a position where I'm spearheading, by God's plan, the rights of basically every man on earth. They could do this to anybody. So I think any man with a brain who's thinking is looking at my position and going, they could hit me or my friends or my son or my dad the same way they're hitting this guy. And that builds a degree of affinity amongst my audience. So no, they failed. They failed and they made a hero out of me, which is what I'm actually scared of. I am scared by the incompetence of my enemy. I'm scared by the fact that they are failing so monumentally. If they had been half successful with the cancellation, none of this would have happened. If the cancellation made me an obscure internet personality, it'd be over. If I would have just allowed them to beat me, none of this would have happened. But I beat them. And that's the problem. Now I'm sitting here going, okay, well, after I beat the BBC, after I destroyed the BBC, Tristan gave me a high five. He's like, oh, you wrecked them. They're going to look so stupid. I said, bro, we've sunk the HMS Hood. HMS Hood in World War II, HMS Hood was the British battleship. It was the flagship of the Royal Navy. And the Royal Navy was obviously renowned. It has been for hundreds of years. It was the best battleship. And it was up against German battlecruiser, the Bismarck. And the Hood should have outgunned the Bismarck. And it was the best German ship against the best British ship. By absolute fluke, the Bismarck, on its first volley or second volley, landed a shell perfectly through the top of the Hood and blew up the ammo magazine. And like in the first shot, within minutes, destroyed the entire HMS Hood. Killed I think it was 3,000 people, 2 survivors. You can find the video on YouTube, the hood blow into pieces. When Churchill found out the hood was sunk, he said, sink the Bismarck, don't care what it costs. He sent every ship, every plane, every sub diverted from every other mission. Doesn't care if we lose every plane we have, don't care if we lose the RAF. We cannot lose the hood without him losing the Bismarck. Sink the Bismarck. When the Bismarck sunk the hood, all of the crew were celebrating, except the captain. The captain updated his will. He updated his will and telegraphed home to his wife and said goodbye, because he knew. When I destroyed the BBC, my brother was celebrating, I knew. I said, Tristan, no. You don't beat the British Broadcasting Corporation and make fools of them like this without some new bullshit. We sunk the hood. And he's like, oh, we'll see. Oh, who's this? Evie? Evie. I fucking knew it. I'm winning too well. I'm scared by the incompetence of these clowns. But I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to lose? I'm genuinely looking for guidance here. Am I supposed to roll over and fucking lose? When they're lying about me and slandering my name and trying to put me back in a fucking dungeon? Back with the cockroaches? All I could do is protest my innocence, but they're such idiots, I make them look so stupid, and then there's egos involved. You think Lucy Williamson hasn't been called into a meeting room with some BBC producer saying, you made a fool of us? Yes, she has. There's egos involved. Big businessmen with business interests have ego investment in hurting me now. And I keep winning. So I don't know, I'm in a very precarious scenario. Do I continue to win? Do I let them win a bit? Do I just roll over and shut up? What am I supposed to do? I don't know what the right move is. It's difficult.
You sincerely don't know what the right move is.
I sincerely have decided that the best thing I can do is stay true to my faith and stay true to God and tell the truth and fight. The right move for me, I believe, is to fight and fight to the end, because I think that suicide is always the wrong option. I believe if you're put in a bad position, the best thing you should possibly do is fight to the best of your ability, which is what I'm going to do. However, if I was looking at it purely logically without any kind of ideological motivations, perhaps if I would have shut up when they wanted me to, I wouldn't be in this scenario. But that's just not who I am. You know, Alexander the Great didn't have to keep conquering. Genghis Khan didn't need to take Vienna. He could have just chilled. He kept going. So I feel like when I'm in a position where I don't know what I'm supposed to do, the best thing I can do is just look to God and tell the truth. And that's what I'm doing.
I want to ask you one more question regarding human trafficking, because this is a heinous charge, or
Absolutely.
allegedly.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is not lightweight stuff. You famously ran a webcam business.
Correct.
Perfectly legal.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean,
Yep.
I can't tell you how many women are doing OnlyFans these days.
Yep.
Webcam business.
Yep.
How much of a reason was that a correlation for the human trafficking, the sex trafficking, the webcam business? How much did they correlate that to? Well, he must be human trafficking. He's running a webcam business. There's no correlation.
Zero correlation.
So they haven't even charged any of the webcam business
Zero.
for any of this.
Zero. And what's crazy is...
It's crazy. His people assume that, right?
It's crazy because one, it's not illegal. And two, you can go drive down the high street of Romania. There's webcam studios it's one of the most popular businesses in the country. It's not even illegal. And that was a past life. You're talking about something that happened 10 years ago.
It was that long ago?
It was about 10 years ago, yeah. It was at the very beginning of it. The very beginning of the whole idea of that industry.
Connect is an application which allows you to take a minute to connect with influencers from all around the world. My name is Andrew Tate, and I'm available to speak directly to you on Connect.
I think it's just perception. I understand I have this perception. And I think a lot of people who are also dislike me, a lot of the reason they dislike me so much is my perception. I've had people who say, I hate what you say. I say, what do I say? And after talking to them a while, they say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Of course.
It's the perception of aggression. It's the perception of masculinity that they're afraid of. It's not even the words. They might like the words. It's my delivery. So I understand perception can be reality to a degree. I accepted that maybe the first month I was in jail. I understand when you have a message which is complicated, and masculinity as a whole is a very complicated tapestry, that the best way to instill it and teach it is to break it down to its core beliefs. So I've evolved way beyond Lamborghinis and chicks, right? But masculinity as a whole is a very complicated tapestry. You need to have the emotionality. You need to have the times you feel like crying and you don't. You need to have the times you can be aggressive. You need to have the times that you can be violent to protect your family. It's very complicated. And you can't teach that, especially to the young generation, in spite of the constant propaganda they have coming in their ears, very easily. So I break it down to a very core message, and the core message is that I have financial freedom, so it's hard to tell me what to do, and I have sexual access because I'm respected by women, and I have a good network because I'm respected by men. I break it down to those core things, and those core things are what I build that's how you build the tapestry of masculinity, because if you don't have those three core things, you can never build the rest of it. That's the beginning of it. If you don't have those three things, it's hard to build the rest. So anybody who doesn't look into my message properly, I mean, I'm sure these people who are after me have never listened to me speak at length, ever. Ever. They just look at a picture. He's on a boat. There's 3 girls on the boat. There's no way those girls are happy with that because my wife hates me. And there's 3 of them. So he has to go to jail. And that's what's happening. It's that baseline. I truly believe it's that baseline. But how else can I teach my message, as complicated as it is, without first breaking down and proving you have success in the most core levels of it, right? Before you learn to box, you jab and you cross. Before you do all the complicated stuff, you do the basic stuff. So a lot of it is people looking at my message, not understanding how detailed it is, not understanding how positive it is, looking at the baseline instincts which I teach and which I use to advertise my success as a whole to people to show and say, look, I clearly know what I'm talking about to a degree because I have things that you want. And you're a man, so you can't tell me you don't want them. Every man wants this. Every man wants one of these. And they take all this and they try and weaponize it and use it against me. And you're right. It's feminism as a whole that has this idea that if a man is a man, unapologetically, and he doesn't apologize for being a man, that he's a bad person. Which we've discussed at length, and I've discussed a bunch of times, but it's truly the most crazy thing about all of this is when shit hits the fan, it's exactly the kind of men they hate that they want. Every single time. Every single time. You can go out to a bar in America and you can stand there and argue with a feminist and argue with her to the end of time. And if someone ran in there with a gun, she would say, hey, you go. You're the misogynist. You go protect me. The feminist guy who was on my team, I don't want him to go. I want you to go, please.
We don't want Dylan Mulvaney on the front lines.
Of course not. And it's hypocritical. And it's hypocritical, and it's done on purpose. It's purported by the Matrix. It's done to attack the baseline masculinity of men because they don't want men to be masculine. Because when you're masculine, you say no to things. I saw a really interesting study once that it had testosterone level, and it was linked to your capability to disagree with people. The higher your testosterone level, the more likely you are to disagree, because at a baseline level, back before we were more civilized than we are today, if you disagreed with someone, you had to fight him.
Interesting.
You had to fight that man. For you to sit and say you are wrong, there had to be a possibility of violence. If you didn't have the capability for violence, you didn't say they were wrong. You just agreed with stuff, right? So they don't want men who are standing up and saying, I don't believe in X. They want to reduce our testosterone levels to we're eunuchs so that we sit and say, well, I may not agree with it, but what can I really do about it? It is what it is. And then they have absolute control.
Do you think history favors that ideology? Or history, eventually, a group of men stand up and say, yeah, listen, we've had enough. This is not going to be happening.
I do believe that in history it's always been the same. I believe it's always been a select group of good men who are up against evil. And I think they've always been outnumbered, and it's always been difficult, and they've always suffered. All of them. When I was in jail, the amount of letters I got from people, and it was just names of, and I'm not comparing myself to these people. This is the letters I got of Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, everyone who was unjustly imprisoned. Everyone's gone to jail. Because when you stand up for something, they end up trying to put you in jail. When you're a good person trying to do good, the evil, the matrix as a whole, is going to try and throw you in jail. That's what they do. That's the punishment for it. And history's always been the same. It's always been a small group of outgunned people who stand up, who are, to the detriment of themselves, too principled to allow injustice and evil to thrive. And they stand up and they're outgunned and they're outnumbered, but they're like, no, I have to tell the truth. If you play a video game and you're the good guy, when you get to the boss at the end, he has more life than you. He has more hit points and he moves faster and he's a cheater. He cheats. He cheats. The bad guy cheats. But you still win because you're good. And that's how the battle's always been. I would love for the world to be another way, but I don't think it's ever been that way. I think if you find any time in history, it's always been the same story. And now I'm in the position where, like I said earlier, what am I supposed to do? Do I have a life path in which I can genuinely help people? And do I have a life path in which I can genuinely do some damage to the evil to the world? Or am I just going to disappear like a coward and let them lie about me and do my time and shut up and delete my Twitter account and just go away?
You know how sometimes, like, I've been in sales for quite a while. If a guy who doesn't have any responsibilities and he's single, he has a $30,000 a month, boom, he's going to Vegas, having a good time. Yeah. And then he doesn't work as hard until he runs out of his $30,000. 3 months later, I got to go make the $30,000 again. Oh my God, panic, I got to pay my bills. I'm behind on the phone. Yeah. Let me buy this watch and make 40 grand. I'm going out again. So it's very inconsistent, right? And then as you're in sales longer, you're like, okay, the profile of somebody that's going to be more consistent is not a single guy. It's a guy that's married, kids, homeowner, and all those three are signs of what? Married, commitment. Yep. Homeowner, commitment, responsibility. Kids, commitment, responsibility. Yep. Last time we didn't talk about your kids. Yep. At this point, I think it's public video, your daughter running to me, give daddy your kiss, all this stuff. Everybody knows at this point. Yep. When you're in jail, sometimes I sit there and I got books on my desk. I'm like 50 books behind, and I like to read. I know you don't talk about reading a lot, but I like to. I'm 50 books behind. But I bet if you're in a place where you're in jail, you're forced to think. You're forced to, Andrew, you don't have the phone, you don't have the computer, there is no emergency podcast. Go away and think. You're sitting there, you're like, okay, family, kids, you know, what it's really all about. Those decisions, when you think about your kids, does it influence you to say, oh, what are you doing this? You know, why are you going through all this stuff? Maybe you got to make some changes in your lifestyle. And if yes, in what areas? Or does it say, no, double down even more because I'm fighting for them?
And that's a really interesting question. I'll start by saying how thoughts in jail are different than thoughts in the outside world, because this is actually an observation I had. In the outside world, I don't think you carry a thought for very long that you don't want to carry. You can sit and think about something if you want to, but if you don't want to think about something, you just get your phone out. Something pops in your head, oh, I don't do it. You get your phone out and distract yourself, or you get on your laptop, or you call someone, or you do something, right? It's not very often in the real world. It's not very often in the real world you have a thought you don't want in your head, and you have nothing to take it away. You have no phone, you have no outside interaction, you have nowhere to go.
What a perspective.
Nothing. You're just stuck with it. You're stuck with that thought. So there were times in jail where, for the first time, like I have a lot of mental control, but there was the first time ever I'm battling with my own mind saying, I don't want to think about this. And I'd put another thought in the way. It was on the door. It was knocking on the door all the time. And this is for weeks. Because every day is the same. You never get the outside interaction. And you also, what made it worse is, you never get the answer. You know, like the open loop. If you ever say to somebody, I'm going to tell you something, I'll tell you later. And it bothers them. That's what jail's like, because you might think of something. It doesn't matter what it is. I won't say what my thought was, but I'll give you an example. Let's say I thought, when did Constantinople fall? What year? I can't just Google it. I don't know. So it's stuck in your head, right? So if you have this negative thought, you don't know the answer. Normally in life, when you want to know something, you find out. But in jail, you don't. So you're like, I don't know. You got this in your head and you're like, I can't get this out of my head. So when you have a negative thought, especially if there's an open loop to it, you need to know something or you want to know something. You can't get it out of your mind. I would sit there for hours just meditating, trying to just keep the door closed on negative thoughts. It's really difficult. It's a really strange experience. And maybe in normal jail in Western countries where you get to go and interact with people, you can distract yourself. But I was stuck in a room for 93 days in one room. I did not leave. That was where I was. I was allowed to go to the fridge once a day, which is a 3-meter walk and back. That is it in my room. You and
Tristan are in the same room or no?
At the beginning we weren't, but then we ended up in the same room.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, the thoughts in jail are very pervasive. And it's also a long time, maybe never, in the outside world where I had a thought in my head for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. You just satisfy the problem. You fix the issue in the real world. In jail, you can't do that. So yeah, family and kids, and those are the positive things that you do think about. But it's difficult because I think of children, I think of legacy. And then if you're going to think of your legacy via your children, you have to think of your legacy via your actions. And then you have to sit and by extension go, well, truly, truly on my deathbed, truly, will I be happier if I gave up or if I continued to tell the truth? I'm scared of the regret of thinking, you know what, I was the most famous man in the world and every man on earth was listening to me and I was really making a difference, but I got scared. I don't think I can live with that. I don't think I can live as a coward. I'd feel like a pussy. I just feel like a wimp. And sometimes inside of men, that's all it takes for us to do the most stupid things there is. The idea of feeling like a coward. A man will run into a burning building to not be a coward. If the firefighter, they go, there's children in there, and the whole building's on fire. It's like, well, I can't be a coward. Oh, fuck it. And you'll risk your life. It's something that's built inside of us, honor and pride. It's something that should be. It's what they're trying to take away from us. But it's what used to be built inside of men. And I just feel like I can't give up. I know what I'm doing is good. I know what I'm teaching is good. I know that people don't like it, but I know I'm not teaching anything that's bad. And yeah, I want my children to be happy, but I have daughters too. And how do you make sure that your daughters are secure and have a good future? Well, I think you do that by building good men. How else do you do it? My daughter is mine now, but she won't be mine forever. She's going to marry somebody. I like the idea of her marrying a good man with honor and principle, a man like me. I don't want to marry some idiot. So they call me a misogynist and I'm anti-woman. I'm pro-woman. The best way you can improve the lives of women is make men, better at being men. Because when a man is a good man, he's good for all of society, including women. He's good for everyone around him when he's good at being a man. So I feel like I'm helping them as well by extension. And it's difficult. And yeah, I can't say with honesty that I strongly considered giving up. It never crossed my mind. It was there for a second. Do I need to do this? And after like half a second, it was like, yeah, I do. I don't know why. I can't. It doesn't make logical sense.
So kids didn't influence it one way or another?
Kids made me want to do it more.
Kids made you want to do it more?
Kids made me want to do it more.
Got it.
I look up to my father as a hero, and I would hate for my sons to look up at me and not see me as a hero. Because that's how I believe you should see your dad, as a hero. And I feel like and you're not a hero without an enemy, and you're not a hero without a fight.
Did they ever try to, and by the way, I don't see this working effectively at all, but did they at all try to come in between you and Tristan, or you and the two girls, or the two of you and them? Was there any manipulation and divisiveness going on there?
What about these stories that came out that you've got cancer and lung cancer, and then you were poisoned, and these matrix attacks?
Yeah, so
are you planting these stories? No, are they making these things up?
No, so the cancer thing is interesting, because by Romanian law, every 30 days to extend the arrest, there has to be new information. They can't extend the arrest based on the previous information. So they put together all this garbage case and arrested me for 30 days. To keep me another 30 days, they have to find something during that 30-day arrest period to keep me for the second month. But of course, there's nothing to find. So when I was having medical scans in Dubai, a dark spot was identified on my lung. And I had follow-up tests booked for February. So after the first 30 days, I called up my PA and she said, "Are you coming to Dubai?" I said, "Well, yeah, if they let me go at the end of these 30 days, I'll come to Dubai for my medical tests." They took that conversation and shown it and used it in court, saying I'm trying to flee the country and trying to escape the judicial system as motivation for the second month's arrest. And the judge agreed and locked me in jail because I said that I would go to a medical appointment if I was free. And they used that as proof I'm trying to run, because they had nothing else, and the judge agreed it for some reason and kept me in jail. Then everything in Romania leaks. So it leaked that I had this medical thing in Dubai, I had a problem with my lungs, and then there's a hospital here, and I decided to go to the hospital here and have it looked at, because although I was not concerned, I thought, you know what, although it's difficult to do procedures in jail, I have time for once in my life. So I decided to go to the hospital here in Romania, and Romania does have some private healthcare, which is actually very high quality. It's not as poor as people think it is. And I went to a private hospital, and I knew it wasn't cancer. I knew it wasn't. I sat down with the doctor and said, "We're really concerned about this dark spot in your lung." I said, "It's not cancer." He said, "How do you know?" I said, "That's just not my life path. It's not my story."
You told him that?
Yeah. The doctor was like, "Okay, but we have to investigate." I said, "We can investigate, but it's just not my story. It's not cancer. I have 0%.
When BBC came, did you have guys like watching every move they were making? You had to almost put like one-on-one, right? Somebody's watching everything they're doing.
Everything.
You have to do it, right? You can't be, you have to be overly paranoid and skeptical with these guys.
If they want to hear about, Ricky Tang's crime lord, if they want to hear more about the crime syndicate in Hong Kong, I can tell them all about it, because Carter Lee is going to get it under control. I mean, this is the thing. This is actually a really interesting point, which I'll go into before I finish the lung story. So I went to the doctors here. In Romania, everything leaks. It leaked out to the press. I had this mark on my lungs. I was supposed to go to Dubai. They denied me going to Dubai. They said that's enough reason to hold me and keep me in jail, which is absolutely insane, all because I had a phone call about a medical procedure. It's crazy. But they were always going to keep me anyway and find some reason. I went there. I had a bronchioscopy. Have you ever had one of them? Bro. I wouldn't call it painful, but it's certainly horrible. So they put a camera in your lung. So it's down your throat, but it's in your lung. It's not down your throat, it's into the airway. So you're trying to vomit and you're trying to cough, and you can barely do either, and they're moving this camera around inside. It's extremely unpleasant. It
sucks. I had it 3 years ago in Dallas for the whole allergy thing.
Did you have a bronchioscopy?
Yeah, they had to knock you out. It's terrible.
Yeah.
You've had the same procedure.
Absolutely.
Were you awake or asleep?
No, they gave me anesthesia, so I was asleep.
Oh, bro, here.
What were you?
I was awake, wide awake.
Yeah.
Oh, I was wide awake.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah. They gave me this, they tried to numb your throat a bit, and then they gave it to me. And the doctors all around me. It's kind of interesting because when something is in your mouth and you're choking, you want to grab it, right? So you're on a chair and you're like tied to the chair, so you can't move your hands. So you're like tied to the chair and you're like this, and they put this thing down your throat, this camera, and you're trying to vomit and you're trying to cough, but they can't move the camera when you're coughing. So even the armed guard who took me, the police officer, the guy, he was in the corner of the room, and even he was, I could see on his face, he was like, fucking hell. And I don't even want to reenact it because it's probably so horrible to look at, but you're just, like you're trying to vomit, you're trying to cough, you're like, your face is bright red, you can't breathe. And they're like, stop coughing, stop coughing, stop coughing. And you have to try and stop coughing for like 2 seconds so they can adjust the camera a bit. It's the worst 20 minutes of my life. It was horrible. They finish that and they go, okay, well, the good news is there's precisely 0 smoking damage on your lungs, and your lungs are perfect. But the lesion, whatever it is on the outside of your lungs. It's not on the inside of your lungs. We couldn't see anything. So I completed that procedure, went back to jail. That was a nice evening. Horrible. Anyone who has a bronchioscopy, yeah, go to sleep. Don't stay awake. Horrible. Then they said we have to find it. We have to get a biopsy from the outside of your lungs. So we have to put a needle through your back, a needle like this long, through your back, through your rib cage, to your lung, a CT guided biopsy it's called, and take a piece of it and then pull the needle back out and then do a biopsy on the piece. Now, they're like, this is an operation. Do you want to have it while you're in jail? Because the bronchioscopy wasn't much to recover from. I had a really sore throat, whatever. But this is an operation. Do you want to have it while you're in jail? And I was like, well, why not? I'm in jail. I have time. I can't recover, but I have time. So I went for my CT guided biopsy. They put you on your front. They show you the needle. It's like this long. And then they stick it in you, and then they scan you with the biopsy, and they try and see where the mark is, and they adjust the needle, and they scan it. It's like 30 minutes of them shoving this needle in you, trying to get to the right point. And eventually they did the biopsy, and they said, yeah, it's benign. It's some lesion I might have had from when I had pneumonia when I was a kid or something. It's benign. And that's what I told you. I knew that cancer wasn't my life path. I knew it wasn't. But obviously rumors spread like wildfire.
Wildfire. Everybody in the States.
Especially because I smoke all the time.
Right.
But it was actually very refreshing to hear I have 0 smoking damage on my lungs. 0. I was like, there's 0? I mean, I'll accept a little bit. I'll take a little bit. But I think it's because I train every single day. I work out every single day. I train hard every single day. And I think, you burn it off. A couple cigars here and there are not a big deal. It's not cigarettes. I think cigars are better than cigarettes. I also believe nicotine is a super drug, so I'm not going to stop. I think nicotine and caffeine.
A super drug?
100%.
What does that mean?
Nicotine and caffeine are what I run on. 100, that's all I run on. Coffee's for closers, bro. Tell him.
I'm the only one that drinks coffee between the two of us.
Oh, really?
By the way, you know who talked about nicotine? Tucker Carlson talked about nicotine, right? Have you seen that when he talks about nicotine, where he starts his day off with nicotine?
100%. Fire blood. I have about 10 to 15 cups of coffee a day and 2 or 3 cigars a day, and I only eat once a day. And it's funny because people look at my
10 to 15
cups of coffee a day minimum.
Wow. But you don't do drugs.
0 drugs.
You'll have a sip of alcohol every once in a while.
I used to. I haven't had alcohol in 9 months. I've quit.
But you're running on caffeine
and nicotine.
It's
It's funny because people look at my physique when I put pictures up and they're like, what's your meal plan? I'm like, bro, cigars, coffee.
Coffee and cigars.
Coffee and cigars. I eat once a day.
What time?
I eat dinner only.
That's it?
Only eat dinner and 18.
So you do intermittent fasting for
every
18 hours? What?
Yeah. And 80 to 90% of my calories are meat. That's it. I'll just have like 3 steaks for dinner.
Now, how much of that is genetics? How much is that like?
I'm not sure if it's genetics, but that's just how I feel best. I feel best when if I smoke and drink coffee all the time, I feel hungry, which motivates me, and I feel energetic. It's energetic hungry. That's how I like to feel when I'm working. I want to be hungry. If I eat, I'm tired. Life's too good if I eat. I'm in my mansion. I've just eaten. She's beautiful. I'm going to bed. No, but if I don't, yeah, but if I don't eat, I'm like, maybe I wouldn't say angry, but I like to have that tinge of irritableness. Does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe I sound crazy. It's how I get things done. It's how I get life done. It's just how
12 cups of coffee a day, 3 cigars, and you eat once a day.
That's right, yeah.
And you train every day.
I train every day, yeah.
And it's working. Working for you.
It's how I feel best.
I don't know if you wrote a book on Tate's diet, if that book would do well.
Well, this is interesting because I had a blood test when I was in hospital for all these things, and my testosterone level, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on male hormones because I'm not. I don't understand them. I don't know what measurement it's in, but it was between 9 and 27 is the testosterone level, the mark. It can be between 9 and 27, the normal range. I've never taken a steroid in my life. I don't inject anything. I don't take any pills, nothing. And I was 32. I was above the normal scale, and I'm 36 years old. It's supposed to be going down. So whatever I'm doing, I'm sticking to.
What was your diet and your regimen while in jail? There was no coffee?
I had coffee and cigarettes. Don't worry, bro. I had those.
Really?
I spent my commissary money on coffee and cigarettes. I had coffee and cigarettes and 1 meal a day, same.
So there was commissary money?
Yeah, so we had...
Who gave you that?
Yeah, so a friend of mine put money on my account. So I was a rich guy in jail, because in Romanian jail, most people haven't got money, right? I was rich. I was rich. There's a limit to how much you can buy, but I was spending the maximum. So I had plenty of cigarettes, coffee. I actually quit coffee. Now we're talking about coffee, and then I want to go back to the point you made earlier, but I quit coffee for the first 30 days in jail because I've never not been caffeinated. My experience of life is caffeinated. I'm a caffeinated human, right? If I'm awake, it's caffeine. So I'm like, I don't need energy now. I'm in jail. So I quit caffeine and all coffee for 30 days to see if there's any tangible benefits, and I can confirm to the world that there are none. Zero. I did not sleep any better. I did not go to sleep any easier. I did not dream anymore. Nothing, absolutely nothing good happened except I was tired all day. It was garbage. I was like, give me my coffee back. I went back to my 15 cups of coffee a day.
That's
Reaffirmed
pretty
your
wild
coffee.
to have that much coffee. The last time I drank coffee, I was 25.
We have one friend.
Literally.
We have one friend that drinks almost as much
Mario
coffee.
drinks
Mario.
as much as
Shout
you.
out to
And by the way,
Mario.
everybody around me loves coffee,
Yeah.
including my 11-year-old son, Tico.
Yeah.
Him and his mom got into an argument the other day because she didn't want to take him to Starbucks. He's like, what do you mean? It's like, I want some coffee. He's like, you're not having coffee at 11 years old. Anyways, but it's working for you. It's working for your body.
Correct.
Sometimes when you find a diet or a combination that hits your body well, you'll know it, you'll feel it. And you have to know your body the best.
Correct. I think there's no perfect diet for everybody.
I agree.
Everyone's slightly different.
I agree.
And that's just, and I think you are what you eat to a degree, and it also depends the mental model you want to operate under. If I wanted to operate under comfort, I certainly wouldn't eat the way I eat. I do it because I particularly want to operate under a degree of irritability and high energy and hunger. I like feeling hungry. I don't like feeling full. I like being hungry all the time.
I love that. I mean, that's the quality of people where, you know, you can tell a lot from somebody how big they think after they make money and they have some success.
Yeah.
When they make money, that's when they slow down. That's when they get casual. The hunger goes away.
Yeah.
You'll really know if somebody's hungry when they made money and they're still going. What is this guy doing still going?
Yeah.
You've already made the money. You've already had the success.
Yeah.
Let's transition to a couple other stories here.
Sure.
So all of a sudden you put in your profile, obviously I joked about it, you're the most Googled women on earth, you know, that was based on your Twitter profile. You know, Nina Turner comes out and says, if somebody says they're a woman, not a tough concept. Your response is, I'm a woman, right? You do that. And you've left it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Tell us why.
Because I am. You don't believe me?
You're a woman?
Are you misgendering me?
I have to choose to agree with you, right?
My
I don't believe
pronouns
you.
are she, her. No, but the level of, it's all a joke, right? But there's actually a very sinister undertone to all of this garbage. And the sinister undertone is that your baseline instincts and your baseline senses are how you've always perceived the world, right? They have to attack them at some level. And they did. I mean, it's fantastic with COVID. COVID, I know we can talk about it now, it was amazing. I used to say to people all the time, who have you seen die? Do you see a pandemic? Yeah, on the news. No. Do you see ambulances rushing back and forth everywhere? Do you see bodies on the street? Do you see lines outside of hospitals? Do you see a pandemic? How a pandemic would look? Do you see a pandemic? Oh, but my grandma, my friend's grandma, your friend's grandma was 96. Okay? So I'm not saying it's not sad. I'm saying she was 96. Do you see a pandemic? No, you don't. But they have just lied to you so many times that you're ignoring your own eyes. That's the final stage of the slave mind. It's the final stage of it. The final stage of the slave mind is when your eyes tell you this is green, but the news told you it was blue. So it has to be blue. So when they're doing these things, it's nothing to do with caring about the mental health, of gender ideology, none of this garbage. They're deliberately attacking you and saying, what your eyes tell you is wrong. Because if they can make you start to admit that your own eyes are wrong, then what other defense do you have against propaganda? If they're going to give you a lie, but your own eyes can't protect you, well then it's over, isn't it? So all of these things they're doing, all of these things are a deliberate assault on the senses. And they do it by controlling the language. If you control what someone says, over time, you'll control what they think. You don't think what you don't say. It's very hard to live a life for 8 years, if you're lucky, and think things and never say them ever. If you think it, you're going to say it sometimes. You're going to give the idea, get some feedback on the idea, build on the idea, change the idea, whatever it is, through discussion. If you never, ever, ever discuss it, you're not going to think it. So they say, this is the truth, ignore your eyes, and you have to say it's the truth. You can't say it's not the truth. And the people who are in charge of the world, they think generationally. They have time. Right now it's a joke. 200 years from now it won't be a joke. 200 years from now it'll all be fucking standard operating protocol. The grandchildren, the people who are in charge now, that's what they want. They'll pull it off in the end. Slow, incremental damage. They do it with nearly everything. They'll take all your rights away. They'll take 100 of your rights away. They'll upset you. They'll give you 99 back. We're good again. Don't worry. And the grandchildren of the people in charge of the world get what they want in the end. They think generationally. So now we're at the beginning of it. It's all a big joke, right? But especially before Elon had Twitter, when you couldn't say the truth online, when you couldn't say my eyes see X on the internet without going to jail or losing your account or getting a hate speech charge in the UK or some garbage. They're controlling what you think. And on a long enough time frame, what you think becomes true. We all believe 2 + 2 is 4. But with a hard enough psyop, if you can't say that, if you have to say it's 5, on a long enough time frame, math breaks down and everyone's just going to believe that 2 + 2 = 5. That's what happens.
You think we're going to get there?
Have you ever seen the experiment? There's a really interesting experiment with monkeys and a banana and a water spout. Have you ever seen this? They put 5 monkeys in a room. And at the top of the room, there was a banana. And when one monkey tried to climb up to get the banana, they turn on the hose and splash all the monkeys with ice cold water. So the monkey would come back down and wouldn't get the banana. And when another monkey would go to climb up, they'd splash all the monkeys with ice cold water. And what would happen over time is, when a monkey went to climb the rope to get the banana, the other monkeys would jump and pull him down and hit him and teach him a lesson. Don't go for that banana. If you go for that banana, we get splashed with water. Then they'd swap one of the monkeys out. Now there's a new monkey in the room who doesn't know the game. The new monkey would attempt to climb, and all 4 monkeys would attack the monkey, pull him back down, and kick his ass. He knows if he climbs the rope to get the banana, he gets attacked. He doesn't know he gets splashed with water if he gets the banana. He doesn't know the game, but he knows if I try and climb, they're going to attack me. After a certain amount of weeks, they change another monkey, and another monkey, and another monkey. Over time, you have 5 brand new monkeys who have never been splashed with water ever. But nobody goes to climb the rope, because if they do, they're attacked by all the other monkeys. And nobody even knows why.
Damn.
That's just how it works. If you climb that rope, we beat you up. That's just how it works. That's what they're doing on a long enough time scale to humanity. There are already X amount of people on the planet. There's already a population, X%, who knows what it is, who ignore their own eyes and repeat what they are told. You can't say that that's not what they're doing, because they're already successful with X amount of the population. They've begun. The seed is there. 2%, 3%, 7%, who knows? They've already proven they can do it. Now it's just a matter of not shutting up and hammering at home. Make sure they repeat it in schools. Children are young. They believe things. They're impressionable. Hammer it to the kids, especially. Put it in every Disney movie. Give it to the kids all day long. They grow up sooner or later. Long enough time frame, that's it. It's generational attacks.
But do you think that's going to work, though? Because let me maybe unpack the question. So I'm from Glendale. I went to Glendale High School, and Staloy, right? So yesterday, a big fight broke out in Glendale. Massive, it's all over the news.
Yep.
So the fight was over these parents, Armenian parents, who were for 4 years are like, listen, we don't mind if you're gay, but don't teach our 4-year-olds about transgender.
Yep.
Don't put these books in. Yep. Finally yesterday, big old brawl. Yep. It's all over the news. They're fighting. Armenian parents are like, we're not going to tolerate this. Yep. This is just not going to happen to us, right? Then you go to YouTube. YouTube comes back and says, hey, starting such and such, all the videos that were put up about, you know, the election and, you know, whether it was a fake election or not, we're no longer going to give a strike or take those videos down. Yeah. They can stay up there, right? This is totally fine. Then you see the Surgeon General comes out, the attorney, I don't know if you saw this one here, he comes out with an article saying new Surgeon General advisory raises alarm about the devastating impact of the epidemic of loneliness and isolation in the United States. This is the same guy that was part of the camp, is now saying, hey, our epidemic of loneliness and isolation has been an underappreciated public health crisis that has harmed individuals and social health, our relationship, our source of healing, et cetera, et cetera. This is the same guy that said, wait a minute, lockdown, you know, do this, do that. Yeah. So the more and more arguments are coming out against even ESG. I don't know how closely you follow ESG, where, why are we doing this? Did you see how much Target lost? $10 billion? Did you see how much Bud Light lost? 25%, 12%? This is no longer working. Well, if you want to, like even one of the insurance companies I work with closely, it's one of our biggest one we work with. Yesterday, I see their post on Instagram. Well, because of Pride Month, we're doing this. I know the people in that company, but they just raised a few $100 million. One of the companies they gave the money to was one of these bigger guys, the Vanguard, BlackRock, and you know, State Street. So when you take money from those guys, you have to have a certain ESG score. But a lot of people are now saying this is not a proven formula that it works. Stop doing it. So do you think guys like you, who are maybe in business, who are maybe in church, they're saying, Pope, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Who are maybe in the Christian church, who are maybe in different denominations, they're in the military, sitting back saying, I didn't sign up for this. So meaning successfully, do you think these guys will be able to manipulate their agendas down everybody's throat, or there's going to be certain people standing up?
Well, certainly I'd like to believe that the tide is shifting and we're starting to get some degree of victory against the matrix as a whole. I do believe that the public sentiment is shifting. However, the fight is long and it's very, very difficult because I agree with what you're saying. Only a year ago, I would argue it completely and say it's basically over. I'm actually very impressed with the ground we've taken back with common sense. But these people operate so slowly. It's generational, these attacks. The attacks we're suffering now were started in the 70s and 80s. They take it over time. And yes, it's fantastic that those parents fought back against that school. That's fantastic. But there's a whole bunch of schools where they didn't. And who knows, okay, that particular book might be removed. A softer version will be implemented. Next year, maybe that book will come back. They have all the time in the world, all the money in the world, and they're insulated from these things. That's what's most scary. You talk about Vanguard and BlackRock and all these companies. What's actually scary about it is the people who are making these decisions are completely insulated from the consequences of their decisions. They're in Switzerland. They fly private. They don't care. You think they care about any of this crap? They'll say, oh, do this. Oh, it's caused a riot. They don't live there. They're nowhere near it. No. They have nothing to do with it. When is the last time you've even seen a politician? Do these people even exist? They're nothing to do with where they operate. It's actually amazing. When I was in Dubai once, I think it was about 3 years ago, I saw the leader of Dubai walking through the mall. I was like, he's a person and he just walks through the mall. I was so impressed. Imagine a Western leader walking through the mall. Never. Never. Never in a million years. It's just pieces of paper, private jet, vanish. All these people who are in charge of everything don't even live in these communities. I do believe that, yes, we can win, because I don't think you can fight to the best of your ability if all hope is lost. I do believe we're winning and taking ground back, absolutely. And I believe that we're doing that by purely telling the truth. What our eyes see is what's real. And we're doing it in the name of God, because you're saying Armenians are strictly religious. I think God and religion is one of the best ways you can combat these things. However, the fight is never ending, because they're never ending going to try and implement. You talk about ESG scores. It's garbage they put together. That's not going to end. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse over time. And it's kind of unfortunate and it's kind of upsetting that we still have this system where the people can be unhappy with something. The peasants can revolt to a degree. But does it even really matter at some point? You get to a point of power where you don't care about money. And then things are really difficult, right? When you control everything, you don't care about money. I mean, I'd like to actually argue. We talk about Bud Light. This Mulaney, whatever is it?
Dylan Mulvaney.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dylan Mulvaney.
Sweetheart, yeah.
And yeah, I know we've damaged their share price, et cetera, et cetera. I would believe people who own that company or are beyond that company, I don't think they truly give a fuck.
InBev.
I don't think they care. Maybe they care a bit. I don't think they're losing that much sleep over it. Maybe they are, a little bit. But I'm saying you get to degrees of power and levels of power where you don't care about money. I'll give you a perfect example of it. I know we keep going back to this, but it was actually a massive pivotal event in awakening so many people was the COVID scam. I said this multiple times in many different countries I visited. I said, if they cared about you, they would have left everything open, maybe put a tax on everything, extra tax percent, whatever, and built hospitals. Why didn't they do that? Why did they lock you all up? Because it's a mass compliance exercise. They want you to comply. They don't give a shit about your health. They just want you to comply. And they want to test how many people comply. And people were saying, yeah, it's all about money. It's all about profit. And I said, that's actually a very optimistic way to look at it. I think that if you destroy the economy and lock everyone in their houses and destroy everyone's businesses, you don't care about money. You're beyond money. You're above money. You want power and you want control. Because once you become actually rich, you learn that the world is all just about people, right? The best things in your life are people. The best things in your life are family. The things that make you happiest are your friends. Your life experience is the best if you have good team around you, good assistants, good helpers, good staff, whatever it is. It's all about people and controlling people. What do you want money for? To get other people to do what you want. That's all money is. I want a Lamborghini. I can't build one. He can. I will pay him to build me a Lamborghini. It's all about people. So once you get beyond a certain level of money, and there's a certain level of control you want that money perhaps can't buy, then you think, well, I don't care about the money. I want the power. I don't want money. I want them to stay in their houses. Why? Because it says so. I don't have to. They have to. Ha ha ha. It's funny. And I've said that and sat with people and said, do you really think people in charge of the world are so petty that they would lock everyone in their houses so they can laugh? I say, yeah, I actually do. I think if you were born into a wealthy family where money has precisely zero value, and you are arrogant to the moon because you're this whoever, and you believe you're God's gift, and you don't, a Ferrari ain't gonna make you happy. Who cares about Ferrari? Ferrari's free. It's pennies. You don't care about any of this shit. What makes you happy is everyone respecting you and being afraid of you. To a degree, you're gonna try and influence some power and fear. I think that's what it is. So I think a lot of these companies, when they're doing these things and they're upsetting people, etc., yeah, it's good that we're fighting back, but I also think part of them enjoy the show. I think part of them genuinely enjoy the show. I think part of them go, you know what? Let's do, this is insane. Let's do this. They're fighting. I really believe it. I know it's a pessimistic way to look at it, but I think they enjoyed the show apart.
I don't disagree with you in regards to that. I can see that how, you see it in movies or scenes where, condescending, arrogant, and they kind of they enjoy bullying the guy that can't help himself, right? Hey, do this. Hey, clean up, pick this up. Look at this. He'll do anything that I need him to do, right? I fully believe that those types of things exist. But, man, empires have fallen so many times because they thought they can get away with murder.
It's true.
And then eventually people said, listen, stop. You're not going to do this to me anymore. We're not going to take a stand. And typically when that happens, you said it earlier, what is really what's going on in Glendale or some of these other cities that people are protesting? Why is there an organization called Gays Against Groomers? Yeah. Gays Against Groomers? What? What do you do? He says, man, I just wanted to be gay and leave me alone. I'm not trying to be, grooming kids. That's not my job. I just want to be gay. Leave me alone. We've made so much progress. Yeah. These guys, I'm not that guy. I'm not this person, right? Yeah. So I think the part that they fear the most, if you read Communist Manifesto, there's a book written by Cleon Skousen. I think he was like a former CIA agent for like 15 years. He wrote a book called The Naked Communist. Yeah. One of the things he talks about how getting rid of God, well, they're succeeding in that area, but not fully yet. Yeah. Getting rid of the family nucleus, well, we already know what is the purpose of this LGBTQ movement? What is the purpose of this transgender? What is the purpose of, let me get this straight, this person cannot buy a gun at 13. This person cannot go in the military at 13. This person cannot vote at 18. This person cannot own a car at 13, but they can transition. The most important decision of their lives, you're okay with? Yes. Now, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me. I think you said something at the beginning, the concept of being tolerant. You know what? Yeah, it's okay. We can have gays. Oh, it's okay. We can have this. It's okay. Listen, man, you've crossed the line a little bit. Yeah. I think faith, family, kids, values, principles, they fear the hell out of it.
Absolutely.
And I think that community is rising up.
No, you're totally right. But you made a really interesting point there about empires falling. And this is where I kind of feel like we're entering a new stage of the world because it's never really done before. Because typically when empires fell, the world was far more polarized. If the empire fell, there was nowhere for the corrupt dictators of said empire to go. The empire's fallen. Let's say England fell. It's very hard to get exile in France. You could do it a little bit. But let's say America fell today. Let's say it completely collapsed and it fell. The people who archetyped that downfall, do you think they'd be in America? Do you think they'd be sitting there waiting to get scooped up? Do you even know who they are? Can you recognize them? What's their name? Even if you could, do you think they're in America or do you think they're skiing in Switzerland? This globalism, the whole point of globalism is that they don't care when empires fall. When you globalize the world, then you have a chessboard. I lost the knight. Doesn't matter. Put the bishop. Sack the queen. Who cares? There's so many things I want to say, but I don't want to die. But there's truth. This can be proven and shown even with this current proxy war. Europe and all the gas prices and the inflation rate in Europe has gone to the moon to fund this proxy war in Ukraine. Why has this happened? Because America's in charge of everything, and America has decided that Europe has to bear the brunt of the bullshit for its proxy war. You're going to have higher gas prices, you're going to have inflation, you're going to have mass civil unrest, you're going to deal with it all. And we're going to sit over here and insulate ourselves because we have the global reserve currency, and the war is going to happen over there, and everyone's going to die, and we're in charge. So now you have this globalism. How can an empire fall when you have basically two camps? There's two teams now. There's two sides left. So I agree with you completely about empires falling, but I'm saying if the empires fell in days of old, the kings would be strung up. But now when the empire falls, nobody notices. It doesn't matter. We don't know who the kings are. We don't know who's in charge. We don't know where they are. They're not going to be anywhere near the trouble. That's for fucking sure. They're just going to be somewhere else. Oops. Oh well. And do they really care? Do the people in charge of the world care if America's crime rate goes up 1,000%? Would they lose sleep at night?
I actually think they do partially. Because think about it. So I'm with Andrew Schultz, and I'm taking your position with him. Yep. Okay, you know who Andrew Schultz is. Good guy. And he says, part of me that gives me comfort is knowing these guys are so obsessed with their money. He may be wrong. We can debate this. Yep. They're so obsessed with their money that there's no way they're going to let America fall. Because if America falls, everything else falls. So they're going to go just as much as they can to control, but not enough to get the machine to break because they're so in love with money and power, they don't want to give that up.
Well, I hope that's true. I would love for that to be true. But my argument is that these people are already so deeply entrenched They print the money. They'll print the new money. They don't care. If they cared about money, COVID wouldn't have happened. They closed the entire economy. I don't think they care about money. I think they control the world to a level where you want to eat? Do you want war? Like, I don't think they give a shit about money. They'll print the new money. They'll change the name of it and print the new one. At a certain level of power, I think they're so above and beyond all of our concepts of how the world works that they don't have any interest in any of it. I don't think they give a shit. I think if you were to go to these people, whoever they are, and say, we're going to take your money away, they would just laugh at you. You think you can take my money? You think you understand money? You think you're going to damage the stock market? You think I give a shit about share price? I think there's a level beyond all of this. And they're the ones who truly are running things, and they truly have no influence. And in fact, the harder they damage the economy and the more damage they do to money, the more people are dependent on governments to eat. That's where communism comes from, right? The more poor we get, the more you need the government just so you have food in your mouth. How can you resist the government if they feed you? You can't. So yeah, and I sound pessimistic, and I'm not pessimistic. And I do believe the answer to all of these things is free thinking and truth and God and communities standing up for themselves and changing the general consensus. I do believe that. Because to a degree, although we talk about people who run the world, to a degree we run the world. Because our tolerance level is what runs the world. There's more of us than them. So to a degree you say, who's in charge of the world? Well, I like to say, well, we are. Because it's all about, we're the abused wife in this relationship. How much crap are we going to put up with? We set the limit. They're going to come at us with everything they can, right? We set the limit. But the problem is they try very, very hard to, one, increase our limit to the max, which is tolerance, and two, to divide us to the point where we don't ever unite long enough. I love what happened in Glendale, what you just told me about. That should be happening in every single school across America, all of them.
Oh, they would love it if you retweet the video for them and give more exposure.
I will do.
You know, when you're saying this, I'm reading a book right now, Robert Moses. I don't know if you know who he is or not, Power Broker. This is a guy, it would be a very interesting guy for you to study. This is the guy that built New York, okay? And he came up and hated, complicated person, misunderstood. The more they would push him back, the more he stood up. The more they would say, no, this is not fair what you're doing, the more he would even say, I'm going to go even more extreme. And so if in New York you mention the name Robert Moses, there's going to be a camp that's going to say scumbag, racist, white supremacist, all this stuff. And there's a side that's going to say, this guy built a bridge, this guy did this guy did that. He would make it so hard for a certain community to go to the nicer community. He would put the the bridge so low that trucks couldn't go through because he didn't want the bad people to go into this. Like he was that sharp. And one time in the book, they talk about how Robert Moses, he says, look, the one thing about Robert Moses, he could give a shit about money. He could give a shit about, it was all about his influence over. So I agree, there's certain people that don't care about money. They're more driven by control, influence, all of that. The part that, we're talking about the movie Fury, Vinny, and you give me this whole thing about Fury, the scene where Shia LaBeouf is reading out of the Bible and he's crying while he's reading this. And then, if you want to text me and then afterwards, you see Brad Pitt quotes exactly what scripture it was, but they never showed how much faith he had. And the whole point was, I'm ready to die. We know we're here. This is going to be happening. We're in the attack. I think the people, there's a part about Trump. I had a girl on, Whitney Webb. I don't know if you know who Whitney Webb is. We had her on. Okay. Yeah. And we start talking about different things. And I've been having a lot of weird guests on lately. And making a comparison between the Kennedy family and Trump pisses a lot of people off. But those two families, forget the fact that one's a Democrat, one's a Republican. They were both anti-establishment. They were both anti-military industrial complex. They were both anti-CIA, anti-FBI, anti all of this stuff, right? We saw what happened with Kennedy. We saw what happened with Reagan. We saw what happened with Lincoln. All these guys were anti-establishment guys. We saw what happened with Trump. The part about Trump that, made the other side uncomfortable is, okay, we can kill the guy. That's been the strategy for a long time. You can't really do it today as much because they fear one thing that they're the most jealous and envy. You know what that is? They do not want to build a martyr. They fear building a martyr because that's the ultimate high that they want to get. They do not want to build a martyr, right? So, okay. We're going to humiliate the crap out of you. We're going to embarrass the crap out of you. We're going to publicly try to do this. We're going to come in between you and your kids.
Yep.
We're going to go get your daughter to be more LGBT. We're going to get her to be on this side, and we're going to pin this. That's the strategy. We're going to put break the entire family apart, right? And he still stands up there.
Yeah.
And to them, it's like, what the hell do we need to do for you to, just sit down and be quiet, not willing to do it?
That's right.
Do you think, again, going back to it, more of those types of men and women who are misunderstood and complicated stories, they're not perfect, far from it.
Yeah.
More of those guys are the ones that are saying, yeah, it's just not going to happen on my watch, man.
And that's what we need. And by the very nature of being the kind of person who's principled enough to risk his own personal situation in life, if you have principles that strong, you're going to be disliked by some people. You're never going to have a person who is principled enough to take risk to his public detriment for the good of what he believes in, who's liked by everybody. That's a logic fail, right? Because he has principles which are hard lines, and people exist across the entire spectrum. So there's going to be people who exist outside of those lines. That's what I liked about Trump. He's not perfect, of course not, but he says what he means what he says. I actually disagree with him on many things. But he says what he means what he says, and that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of a man who says what he means and means what he says because he can't be bought, because he's principled. He can't be bought. Even now, if they were to come to me with $100 million and say, we'll sponsor you with this company, it's $100 million, you just have to shut up, I'd say, no, I don't want your money. I don't want the money. I don't need money. There's nothing else to buy. I've bought everything. I don't need it. My principle's worth more. And that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of principles, and it goes back to the original point. They're trying to remove all of our morality, all of our baseline understanding of things.
Connect is an application which allows you to take a minute to connect with influencers from all around the world. My name is Andrew Tate, and I'm available to speak directly to you on Connect.
That's how they inject you with the slave mind. That's exactly what it is. And you're right. History has always been that way. And now it's under conscious assault. I've never said this before. I've never even thought this before. This is a brand new thought for me. But I would like to think in times of old, in history, perhaps everybody was the same. Everybody was principled. Everybody had parameters, but they were different parameters. Perhaps they were competing ideas. But I think in the modern world, it's not so much competing parameters. It's just people who believe in things and people who don't believe in anything besides what they're fucking told. It changes every day. You have the empty brains, the slave minds, and the people who actually stand up for something. And the free thinkers. But the slave minds, you can't say, well, they believe in a different ideology, because they don't. They believe in what they're told to believe in on that particular day. It changes. They don't have any true core belief. They just repeat. I talk about the Matrix all the time, and people say, why did you choose that terminology? And I chose that terminology because it is perfectly accurate in describing exactly what is happening. The Matrix is a computer program which is designed to control your mind so that your body can be used to power the machines. That's exactly what happens when they make you watch the news. To control your minds, you continue to use your body to work some garbage job and suffer from inflation and power the machines. Machines being soulless people who are in charge of the world. But there's also a million other different ways you can compare the Matrix to the real world. In the Matrix, they say anybody can become an agent at any time. If their mind is not unplugged, they become an agent. If their mind is not freed, they turn into an agent. You can see that in real life. Mention COVID to an NPC. Mention Trump to an NPC. You can sit and have a perfectly cordial, normal conversation with somebody for an hour and be fine. And you can mention one of the particular subjects which they are programmed to hate by the Matrix itself, and they will turn into an agent in real time. And you will see them now start to genuinely, emotionally dislike you as a person. They were your friend for an hour.
Yeah.
Now they hate you. They will turn into an agent. COVID was perfect. I would sit with people and we'd all be friends until I mentioned that COVID's garbage. And now they're an agent. What do you mean COVID's garbage? My friend's grandma was 99. She got sick. Okay. Sorry. That doesn't change my view. And they change. And the Matrix is actually a perfect, absolute explanation of what's happening. And Morpheus says it. If your mind's not freed, you can be one of them. And that's what's happening. And this is why we don't have competing sets of parameters which are trying to argue about which is the best way to run the world. We have people with parameters who believe in family and love and God and tradition and taking care of yourself and taking care of others. There's people with moral standard, and there's people with none. Zero. Empty vessels, agents who are programmed on any given day of what they're supposed to care about. These people can't tell me they care about things. That's what's most annoying about my position, because it's absolutely and utterly weaponized virtue they use against me. The people who hate me because, one, I truly believe, and I know this is arrogant to say, but I feel like I have to say it. There's definitely a massive jealousy implement. If I wasn't so tall and rich and good looking, it wouldn't be happening. They don't fucking like me. They don't like me because I remind them of the jock at school that took their girl. That's part of it, right? They don't like me personally. So it's true. So they try and find an attack vector. And what happens when you have somebody who's monumentally successful across all realms of human endeavor? The only way you can attack them is by calling them a bad person. They can't call me stupid. They can't call me ugly. Can't call me broke. Can't call me weak. They can't call me any of these things. So how do we attack this guy? Well, he's a bad person. How do you call someone a bad person? You weaponize virtue. None of the people, who are pretending to give a shit about women and that I'm bad to protect women have any interest in protecting women. None of these people think I better become physically strong to protect women. None of them even believe in protecting a woman in a physical scenario. None of them even believe in protecting their family. None of them donate to any charities that involve women, nothing. They're just taking the virtue and weaponizing it and attacking me with it. Me as a person who donates $25 million a year to charity to feed both male and female children. Me as a person who believes I have a responsibility to be physically capable so that any woman I'm walking down the street with is safe. I do more for women than any of these clowns would ever do. But they're just weaponizing virtue and attacking me with it. It's not even genuine virtue. That's what's so upsetting about it. These people, the matrix-minded people, have so few parameters and so few virtue. Whenever there's virtue inside of them, it's only so they can take it, weaponize it, and fire it at you. They don't give a shit about any of the issues they talk about. They don't care about race. They don't care about women. They don't care about gays. None of it. They take it, they put it in a bullet, and they shoot it at the people they don't like. It's all fake. All of it.
Who do you see? What are your thoughts on Trump today, 2024, DeSantis, Biden? How do you see this thing panning out?
Politics is so interesting. It's so messy. I mean, obviously, I'm a Trump supporter. I believe in Trump. I like DeSantis and the things he did. I'm not going to choose between Trump or DeSantis. I think if one of them won, if any of them won, it would be fantastic for the world. I think YouTube taking a back step is actually extremely important symbolically. It'd be interesting to see if they keep that up post this election, seeing what happens with this election. That'll be very interesting. But I think it's certainly a massive symbolic step back. I remember when I got canceled, nobody talked about Rumble, nobody talked about Kick, nobody talked about, even you guys, Valuetainment, no disrespect. You were a lot smaller then than you are now. Of course. It's crazy how fast alternatives have popped up. And I'm only saying this because I do feel like I literally said, I remember my exact words. I said, there's pressure behind the dam. Everyone's tired of it. All it takes is a crack. And when there's a crack, there'll be a flood. And the crack in the dam will be a man who is more famous once he's canceled than he was before he was canceled. That's what I said. Now they're trying to put me in jail, which is making me more famous again. I'm not saying it's all because of me, but I'm saying there's definitely a public consciousness switch where the arbitrators of truth are having to backstep now. They've overused their power. They overstepped their power exactly like we said they would. And now they're allowing open discourse. So I hope that America has a free and fair election. That's what I'm praying for. I think every country should have a free and fair election, especially when we're going to fly fighter jets and drop $500,000 bombs on farmers who've never made $5 in their day under the guise of democracy. If we're going to bother to do that, then we should at least have a democracy ourselves. So I think a free and fair election will be interesting. And I think the will of the people should be done. And that's how America was built and founded, and that's what I would like to see. And I do think that America does lead the public consciousness overall as a whole. I know what you're saying about me being over here, but I do think that which side wins does have an overreaching effect overall on the entire planet. America's still the most powerful country on earth. It'd be very interesting to see what happens in 2024, we'll put it that way.
Crazy question for you. He gets approached all the time. PBD, when you running? When you running, PBD? He goes, listen.
I'll vote for you, bro.
Yeah, he goes, listen. I was born in Iran, made in America. I can't run. Well, when are you gonna? Well, you were born in America, Andrew Tate.
I was, yeah.
You know, you were raised in Luton, UK. You lived in Romania, but you are an American citizen.
I have no idea.
Dream with me for a second.
I have no idea.
If you were president of the United States, Andrew Tate, what would that look like?
I have no idea what it'd be like to be president, but I have a feeling what Putin said about the presidents might be true. Did you ever see what Putin said?
Yes. 8 years, they come and go.
Yeah. I've seen 3 presidents. I've seen a lot of presidents come and go, and they all come with these grand ideas. But once they get in office, the people with the briefcases and the dark suits come in and sit them down because of the strong bureaucracy inside of the United States and explain to them how things are done. And they never seem to get their ideas done. They never seem to do the things they said they were going to do.
Do you include Trump in that?
I think Trump tried his very best to resist that, and that's why he's in the situation he's in. That's why they're taking him to court for no reason. That's why he was Matrix attacked. I mean, if Trump's, okay, let's cut the guard. I'm going back to jail anyway, probably with this Matrix stuff. They're going to try and kill me anyway. They probably are. If Trump's situation isn't a Matrix attack, what is? What did they just hit him with in New York? Some defamation for defending himself against a lie? If that's not a Matrix attack, tell me what is possibly else. Anyone who's sitting out here who actually truly believes that the Matrix doesn't exist has no idea how the world works. The media machine and the legal system work hand in hand to try and slander people's name and convince the populace enough that they're guilty so there's no revolt, so they can hit them with a guilty plea. They've already decided before all of it. It's all a plan. This many months of negative news, then we'll hit him with this, we'll get him guilty for this, and with this many months of negative news, the populace will probably swallow it. It's garbage. It's a Matrix attack from head to toe.
How much do you see yourself in Trump? And to use your words, first they try to cancel you, he was canceled.
Yeah.
Then they try to throw you in jail, he's dealing with lawsuits.
Yeah.
Lastly, they try to put a bullet in your head.
Well, Trump's lucky because he's a bit older. So Trump will try and outlast him. They'll wait. My problem is I'm a bit young, you know? And I also think the reason I feel particularly at risk, and I say these things on podcasts to protect myself, and I don't want anyone to think I'm paranoid or crazy, because I really don't believe I am. The reason I think I'm particularly at risk is for the thing you just said. It's the masculine youth who are my fans. It's the 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. They are the future of the world. They're the people you want to go and die in a ditch. They're the soldiers you need. Those are the people you need psyoped. You need them psyoped. You can't have a bunch of men who aren't psyoped. Mm-hmm. That's when you lose control of everything, when the men don't listen anymore. And they're all listening to me. And I'm teaching them things like God, religion, personal responsibility, accountability, discipline. And everyone's saying, well, why are they attacking Andrew for just telling the truth and making me go to the gym? Because when you have these things, when you have accountability and discipline and personal responsibility, you have a barrier, you have a parameter, you have a no, you have a limit. They don't want you to have a limit. None of the men are allowed limits. We must accept whatever we are given from our relationship with our woman, from the government, from our job. We're just the slaves. We're the backbone of the tax bracket. We just have to shut up and pay our taxes. As soon as we have limits, they have a problem. That's why they dislike the things I teach. What do I really say? What do I really teach young kids that's genuine dangerous? What do I say? Go to the gym, stick up for yourself? Stick up for yourself, go to the gym, you're allowed an opinion. Educate yourself, be smart, work hard. Believe in things. Believe in yourself. Have friends. Have strong friends around you. Don't listen to dishonest men or dishonest women. It's not misogynistic to say dishonest people. Non-gendered should be anywhere near you. You should have standards for who's your friend. Standards for who you have relationships with romantically. Whether you're gay or straight. You should have standards. Telling men to have standards is now wrong think. Because as soon as men have standards, they lose control. They don't want any man to have any standard on anything. They want to come along and say, no, you need the 8th injection. Take it. That's all they want.
I think that's the saddest thing that's happened to you, is because anybody that listens to your long form content, not 60 seconds on TikTok, fully understands that you're an advocate for male self-improvement.
Absolutely.
Get out of depression, work your ass off, be coachable, make money, get women, enjoy the finer things in life. But they will take the little things you say and label you a misogynist, label you a chauvinist, and that's the tip of the iceberg of minor things you say when you really are a male advocate.
It's weaponized virtue. But also, you can't have an opinion on any kind of differences or differentiation without them now calling you a misogynist. If I believe a woman is better at raising young children than a man, I would never drop my child off to a nursery run by men. I think that would be weird. I would never take my 2 or 3-year-old girl and drop her off in a nursery which was male run. I would only bring her to a nursery which is female.
Nor would you hire a babysitter that's a boy.
Neither. Never. Do I hate men? No. Like, I just believe that in war a man should go, and raising children, maybe perhaps women should go. I just believe in the same things that everybody believed in 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The world has gone nuts. 10 years ago, everything I'm saying was standardized and accepted and normal. And they're taking this misogynist garbage and weaponizing the virtue and trying to attack me with it, and they don't even believe in it. It's truly upsetting, but I just can't be quiet because I don't know how. I couldn't live as anyone else other than me. I couldn't live as a man who wasn't trying to be his best self.
Let's stay on this. So you said president, then you brought in Putin.
Yeah.
So then that discourages for somebody to think they can make real change. Okay. Yeah. So 2 questions. One, if you are the president today, I'm sure you've thought about it.
Yeah.
What policies would you attack? Right now in America, I watched RFK. I don't know if you listened to the recording yesterday.
I've heard. Yeah.
What he said about the angle he would take with pharma, he says, all these things we're talking about guns. He says, how is it that we have the same amount of guns as Switzerland does per capita, but Switzerland hasn't had a school shooting in 21 years. We had it 21 hours ago, and we just had one last night, by the way, big one. I don't know, in Virginia, I want to say, right?
7 people shot.
Yeah, 7 people shot just yesterday, right?
Every day there's something.
Every day. You're talking about fentanyl. You're talking about the drugs. You're talking about LGBTQ. You're talking about military-industrial complex, economy, taxes. What would be top 3 issues you would attack if you were president today?
And that's so interesting, because before I answer that question, that ties back into what we were saying earlier about men's mental health. They pretend they give a shit about men's mental health. But if you come along and actually advocate and tell men how to be happier. I've been a sad man and a happy man. I am a man. I know exactly how it feels on all ranges of emotion. And I'll be honest with you right now. When a man is sad, yeah, there is an inclination towards aggression. That's how we're born. That's how we're evolved. We're evolved with that inclination towards aggression. We need that to protect and provide. That's who we are. We need that bravery. But having a bunch of depressed, sad men who have no emotional control is dangerous for society. I say this all the time. They try and pretend that I'm somehow dangerous for society by telling men to stand up for themselves and be masculine. Absolutely not, really not. When you tell a man to have no emotional control and be more feminine, that's a school shooter. A school shooter is not a man with masculine accountability. He's a man who's told, act how you feel all the time. Then he gets picked on for long enough. Throw on some drugs on top his psychiatrist gave him. Throw in a lack of a girlfriend, and he's had enough. That's where school shooting comes from. School shooting does not come from men being masculine. It comes from the absolute opposite of these things. And they know this. They know this very, very well. To fix society, we have to fix it at the most base level, the root level. I think America and most countries need more transparency and understanding of how things work. But when they're attacking the family unit, they're attacking all of these issues. Every issue you've just labeled all starts back down to the beginning. I really think the reason I would like to argue, and I don't know any of the statistics on this, in the 1950s, I'm sure there was prevalence of guns all around America, but there just wasn't the school shooting. Why? What was different? What was different in the years before that there is now? I think it's just because children obeyed their parents, and their parents were a family, and there was a degree of responsibility that was instilled inside of people, and there's a degree of accountability, and also there was a degree of honor and pride.
Great question.
There's a degree of honor and pride. Yeah. I'll tell you something now. I bet in the 60s, 70s, whatever, in any country in the world, people didn't want to do dumb shit because the family would be known as criminals. The last name would be tarnished. Their son did this. You hear what their son did? There was a vested interest in all of it. Now you have a school shooter who's going to go out there, be a piece of shit and kill people, and then their parents are on TV, well, yeah, he was failed by the system. They don't even feel any shame. It's unbelievable. If one of my children or someone close to me did something that heinous, I would be disgusted. I would apologize just for the name alone. There's no honor left. There's no pride left in the name. And this is what happens when you remove honor and pride from people. If you have no honor and no pride, nothing really matters. What matters anyway? It doesn't matter if you're out of shape. It doesn't matter if your kid's a piece of shit and a criminal. Nothing matters without honor and pride. And this is done on absolutely every level. I said this to Tristan the other day. I was actually saying we were driving, well, the other day, long time ago. I haven't left the house in a while. We were driving and I said, even on the most base level, I said, every building is ugly. Have you noticed that every new building is ugly? It's ugly. Tristan goes, yeah, it's all the same glass, big square, ugly building. In the 1400s, we built these ornate, gorgeous buildings. And now everything's ugly. Why is that? And well, I'll tell you why it is. It's because they don't want you to have any intrinsic attachment to a specific place. If all the buildings are beautiful in a specific town, you have intrinsic attachment to that town. You care about that town. You want good things for that town. You'll protect that town. You'll defend that town. What is that? That's a barrier. That's a parameter. If everything looks the same all the time, you'll just move. Who cares? Oh, they've messed up San Fran. Who cares? I'll move somewhere else. Let's move somewhere else. It's all the same. Globalism doesn't matter. It's all the same. Buildings in Berlin and New York, they all look the same. Where's all the beauty gone? When there's beauty, you have an attachment to that beauty. They want to remove all your attachments from everything. Even now, when they try and psyop you into, let's say, the way that models all look different than they used to before, right? Models all look different.
Victoria's Secret.
Yeah, and I was arguing this point, and someone's saying, oh, but that's because you have Eurocentric beauty standards. I said, no. I'm going to correct you, because I know you think you sound smart using the word Eurocentric, and I'm going to correct you because you're a dumbass. Let me tell you what beauty standards are. Beauty standards, by definition, for something to be beautiful, has to at least be unique. If everything is beautiful, then it's not beautiful. If everything's beautiful, then it's standardized. For you to take a model who looks the way they look without any effort at all, and they look like most out of shape, uninteresting people on the street, you cannot call that beautiful because it's standardized, you can see it everywhere. Beauty means it must have been difficult to obtain. Whether it's a building, it's difficult to make because it's ornate, or a woman who's trained really hard to have a beautiful figure, that is difficult. Difficulty and beauty are linked. You can't have beauty without difficulty. You cannot show me another model and tell me that my Eurocentric beauty standards are saying she isn't hot, because that's not why. She isn't hot because she's made no effort. She hasn't tried. That's why. And they're doing this with everything. Everything is ugly. Nothing has a standard. Nobody has to try for anything. No parameter. No baseline belief of what's true and what's false. Everything's subjective. Your truth. No, there's the truth. There's no such thing as your truth. And this is an attack on every single level. They're assaulting us from everywhere. Even the buildings they build are assaulting you, so you can't even just drive through a town and go, wow, look how much energy has been put into this place. I love this place. I will not allow them to do it to this place. Now it's just like, we can move there. Let's move there. It's all the same anyway. It's all a Starbucks on the corner and a 7-Eleven. Who cares? It's all the same. Why fight? Why fight for any of it? It's all done purposefully. I'm telling you, call me a conspiracy theorist, call me crazy. I don't understand why an architect would now decide, who hires an architect? I'm going to build a building. Let me hire an architect to come up with the same sketch of the same bullshit building, which is already existing everywhere. How much did I pay him? Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to build a skyscraper made of grass that looks like every other one. Is that it? We did all this 600 years ago. We built cathedrals and now we build this crap? Why? Everything is on purpose. It's all a psyop. It's all a psyop. When they're putting these models on there, the psyop is you don't have to try. You don't have to try at anything. Don't try. Doesn't matter. Just don't try. Wait for the government. We'll give you some food stamps. You'll be okay. It's
participation trophy.
It's slavery. It's slavery. When you need to do every single thing they say to eat, that's their end goal. That's what they want. It's slavery. They don't want you trying anything. Even going to the gym today is an act of rebellion. Even being in good physical condition is an act of rebellion. If I put up a photo of me and I'm in good physical shape, there are people who write underneath it, oh, you're dumb, you train so dumb. They insult you for it. Like, you're a bad person because you have standards for yourself. That's the level of bug man they want to get you to. Of course, these people will give up meat and eat the bugs and live in the pod. Of course they will. They have no standards. They have no self-respect, no standards. Of course they can live in an ugly building, a big, ugly matrix pod. That's all they want.
Is it somebody has to sell you on that? Or is it going back to conditioning? Or what would it be? Is it someone selling you or is it conditioning?
And it goes back to my original point about the family. I do believe that the reason we didn't have so many problems before is because I believe the families had standards. And some cultures still do. I have friends who are Chinese. My dad, I cannot not get an A. That's just their culture. When my dad was still alive and he was teaching chess, my dad would charge $400 or $500 an hour for chess lessons. And towards the end of his life, he goes, all of my students are Chinese or Indian. Nobody else wants to spend money, $500 an hour to teach their kids chess. Only the Chinese and Indians will spend that money to make sure their kid is that good. So that's it. They're the ones who invest the most in their children. They still care on that level. But most families don't wake up and go, I want my children to act a certain way for the legacy, for the family name as a whole. I'm instilling standards upon them because of the last name. My entire life I've had standards instilled upon me. My entire life. Your last name's Tate, you can't do that. Your last name's Tate, you're not allowed to do that. Your last name's Tate, hit him back. I've been like that my whole life. And now we've removed all standards from everybody. This is why you get school shooters. These school shooters should be too embarrassed to even embarrass their fathers. They should wake up and go, I would never do this to my family. And I'll also, this is definitely going to get me canceled, but I'm going to say it because it's true. I'll say it by extension for suicide. I don't care what you do to me. I'm Andrew Tate. I cannot kill myself. I can't. I'm not allowed. It's against the creed of my last name. I didn't have ancestors who suffered how they suffered, who went through what they went through, for me to be born, to kill myself. That's not the end of my story. I refuse. I absolutely refuse. No matter how bad it gets or what bad situation I'm in, I refuse to do it because I have too much respect for my last name. I won't do it. And I think that a lot of things, a lot of men's mental health, a lot of crises can actually just come back to the old adages of honor. And you can fix a lot of it. Your girl left you, you miss her. I get it. We've all been heartbroken. She's with a new guy. You're upset. She doesn't care. You care. I get all of it. But there has to be a point where you get to a level of pride and you just go, that's not who I am. I lost her. That's life. You just got to get on with it. And the best way is to have, where do you find the strength when you're in these difficult situations? I always find the strength from my last name. I'm Andrew Tate. I'm Andrew Tate, so I just have to do it. I'm in a Romanian jail cell. I wake up, there's cockroaches in my bed. They're all over my face. Well, what am I going to do, cry? Well, am I bitch out? Am I going to go and sign a piece of paper and say I'm guilty? I'm going to sell my brother out? Is that what I'm going to do?